Well, the last game of this weekend has just finished, and LAFC with a last minute goal to win at their new home at Bank of California Stadium, 1-0 over the Sounders. Lauren Simmons, or Simon, depend on how you pronounce his name, with the winner. And I'll tell you what, holy crap, Stephen Fry, how in the world did you not save that? Like, that goal, literally just, when Simmons basically hit that one from the free kick, it was straight into Stephen Fry. And for a goalkeeper like Stephen Fry, and how, in this game, he made a lot of big saves in this game, that was just an ugly save. And that was just, well, it wasn't really an ugly save, that was an ugly moment for him. And certainly this is gonna, like, if we're gonna remember from a long time from now that LAFC first ever goal at Bank of California Stadium, one is sort of a weird one to remember, because this was all because of Stephen Fry basically just spilled it. I mean, the ball was hit very hard and it was kind of had a little bit of knuckle, but Stephen Fry, how in the world did you not save that? Like, he basically just, like, the ball just came right off his hand. He was about to gather it, and yeah, if you're a Sounders fan, you must be absolutely infuriating right now. I mean, this game looked like it was going to end in a scoreless draw, and to be honest, this game, it was very, very boring at times. Like, the passing and the quality of this game was just so bad. And for Seattle, obviously a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have just so many injuries that they have to deal with. But for LAFC, playing at home for the very first time, and all that talked about how they were gonna put on a show to their fans, yeah, that was not a show at all. That was really boring kind of game. And at time, I just literally had to walk away from the TV because it just got so boring. I mean, there was a lot of half chances by both teams. I thought both teams had a couple of chances to score too, but just at time, the passing was just, oh my goodness, it was just absolutely horrible. But, LAFC, they don't care. They got the win. They got the first ever win at Bank of California Stadium. I'm sure that a lot of LAFC fans are still partying right now, almost as if they won the MLS Cup right now. And I think for LAFC, that's now 5 out of their first 7 games this season that they have won to start their franchise. I mean, that's not a bad record to start your first ever season in MLS, is it? But yeah, that of course is just a little quick talk about this one. I kind of want to just start this one because this game just ended. But let's actually talk about the other 10 games that has happened in the MLS this week. There was I think a couple of surprises. There was a couple of surprises and a couple of just pretty obvious ones. And there was also some really embarrassing send-off. And this game gave us one. Vancouver winning 2-0 over RSL. Goals from Teixeira and also Blondell. Although this second goal, really, Alphonso Davies should have got credit for this second goal, because when he tried to deliver the ball in, it looked like that ball was going to go into the back of the net, and Blondell basically just tapped it in. It's almost like what happened when you play Rocket League, and how you're about to hit it into the back of the net. You're basically going to shoot it into the back of the net, and it was going to go in, but one of your teammates just decided to tap it in because he wanted to steal that goal. And I think that's what Blondell did in this game. But Teixeira, oh my goodness, can you be any stupider than what he just did in this game? So he scored a penalty kick, and it's the 75th minute, and that gives a 1-0 lead on Vancouver. And keep in mind, he's already on a yellow card. And guess what he decided to do in a thing that he should never have done? That's right, he decided to take his shirt off, he decided to take his jersey off, celebrate like he scored a 90-minute winner or something like that, and it was, when you take your jersey off, it's an automatic yellow card. It is written in the book, and yeah, he got his second yellow, he gets sent off for that incident. I mean, it is just, I wonder what Carl Robinson is going to say to Teixeira in the locker room after that game, because he must be absolutely livid with the way that he just decided to get himself sent off because he thinks that he scored the winning goal and stuff like that. I mean, there's just absolutely no excuse of what Teixeira did there. Like, I get that, some guys, they want to take their shirt off when they score like a crucial goal, maybe like in the latter part of the game, maybe in stoppage time, stuff like that. And, usually you always see that happening, which I have no problem with it. But come on, this is the 75th minute. You still have 15 minutes left in this game, and you're only up 1-0, and you just decide to take your shirt. And it wasn't even a good goal at all. It was just a penalty conversion. So very, very stupid of what Teixeira did. But fortunately for his team was able to win this game, and they did get that second goal in the 79th minute. And really, I think for the Whitecaps, it just seemed like even when the sending off happened, it kind of sort of benefit them. They actually kind of look much better than when they have 11 men, which is kind of weird to say, but when you are a team like the Whitecaps that always tends to just defend and basically trying to always put long balls up to your forward and up to your strikers, I guess that maybe you might as well just start every game down a man. And for RSL, this has to be very disappointed, because I thought RSL at time they had chances to potentially get a goal, and especially that Vancouver coming into this game just so bad, and that RSL has all that momentum after that Rocky Mountain Derby win against Colorado. I thought that they would get something out of it, but instead they didn't. And yeah, I mean, this has been this problem for RSL. There's just been times where they've been good, and there's just been time that they're just superly bad. And so far this season on the road, they have been superly bad. Like, it isn't even close how bad they have been on the road. And, for Mike Pecky, he's got to address this issues so far. But either way, moving on. Atlanta winning 4-1 against Montreal. So I say that, coming into this game, I knew that Atlanta was going to completely blow out Montreal, and they're probably going to score like 4-0 or 4-1, stuff like that. And in some way they did. They won 4-1 in this game. Goals from Almiron with a brace. He scored a penalty in the 70th minute, and then scored a wonderful goal in the 84th. Kratz with a brace also, and both of those goals were actually free kicks goal. I mean, it is very rare you see a player can score 2 free kick goal in a single game, and those 2 free kick goal was just sensational goal too. I mean, these 2 goals could have easily be right up there as the goal of the week nomination. And for Atlanta, they definitely got the job done. Although if you actually watch this whole game, this was never a 4-1 game. Montreal obviously got an early goal by Tatter, and this one was really against the run of play, because Montreal was basically parking the bus doing that point, and they pretty much just parked the bus throughout the entire part of the game. And they concede a penalty, which I thought it was clearly a penalty. I think it was like a handball off of one of the Montreal player. I think they also go into VAR to look at that incident. And speaking of VAR, I will get back to talking about VAR situation, because yeah, it seemed like every week I have to talk about the controversy of VAR, and I just kind of feel like maybe in the future I might as well just make a video and just kind of like talk about VAR and whether or not is it actually very useful in MLS, or is it actually not useful at all. I mean, there's been times where VAR has been just amazing, and there's been time that VAR is just ridiculous, and that it should not be allowed in MLS, and we should just ban it either way. But this one was a pretty good decision in this game between Atlanta and Montreal. And like I said, Almiron converts the penalty. He has now scored 6 goals, which I believe that ties him up in the Golden Boot race. I forgot who was the other guy that scored 6 goals in this. I think it's also Joseph Martinez. He also scored 6 goals, or he might have scored 5. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, Atlanta with a good win against Montreal, as you kind of expected. And now, for Atlanta, certainly, and this is kind of a little bit spoiler to this game, they are on a collision course with Orlando City as basically now the battle of the Titans. And, both of those teams, Atlanta and Orlando City, are just in an incredible hot streak. And I think they play on May 13th, and that game is in Orlando City. So yeah, that game, if you are looking forward to some big game coming up in the MLS calendar, make sure you mark that game, because that is going to be a very, very interesting game. But yeah, next up, Toronto with a 2-2 draw against Chicago. TFC were up 2-0 in this game thanks to goals from Osorio and Vasquez, but Chicago pinned TFC back. Goals from Schweinsteiger, and also former Quakes hero Alan Gordon with a late equalizer. It just seems like it's so classic, the fact that it's always in the late moment you always see Alan Gordon score those kind of late goals. But for TFC, they blew a 2-0 lead in this game, and TFC actually started out they started a very kind of strong squad. They had Osorio and Vasquez in there. They also had Bradley. They also have Javinko, I believe. The only guy that I don't think was in the lineup that played in that CCL final a couple of days ago was, I think, Josie Altidore, and then another person. But TFC was starting almost starting their strongest squad in this game against Chicago. And I said in the preview that I thought they weren't going to do that. I thought Greg Vanny basically will just try to rest some guys, just trying to give guys a little bit of a break and just kind of time to reflect on that painful CCL final loss. But no, instead he decided to put almost the same squad that lost in that CCL final against Chivas, and they looked very angry coming in the first half. Like they were all out blazing. They were absolutely dominating this game. Obviously, they got the first goal, like I said, with Jonathan Osorio scoring. That one is a little bit controversial because the development of the play, when Javinko gave the ball into Osorio, it looked like Javinko was offside when that ball came into him, and then he gave the ball to Osorio. And I'm not sure if they look at VAR in that incident, but they didn't call that one off. And then they actually also score a second goal a couple of minutes later, and that one was waved off, and that one looked like an offside too. So yeah, going back to what I said about VAR and how it just felt like in this game is another example of how sometimes VAR is just very inconsistent. And if you're going to rule out one of the goal, you might as well just rule out the goal early on, where it looks like Javinko was offside when that ball came in. But I guess in some way you could say that the second goal, when it was correctly ruled off, is maybe a little bit justice from what happened to the first goal. But I really also think that in this game, when Chicago came back in this one, it's just a case that TFC just ran out of gas. I mean, during the latter part of the stretch, Chicago was really forcing the issue, and the TFC player are just they're just mentally stressed out after kind of like pushing forward so much. And I think they kind of spent a little bit too much energy in the first half just to trying to get themselves in a good lead, and they just completely ran out after the end. But it is what it is, and I think TFC, you could say that they might be happy that they at least got a point out of this game. They could have easily got nothing out of this game because of the hangover they had in the CCL. And I'm pretty sure Chicago fans are going to be very happy with this draw, because coming into this game, when you're facing a TFC squad that has put pretty much almost a full strength squad and are very angry coming into this, and somehow you're still able to walk out BMO Field with a draw. Yeah, certainly that is definitely a very good sign. And Chicago have now got 4 points out of these 3 game stretch that people thought that it was going to be really, really hard from them. Although they do have another tough game coming up next. And I think it's Atlanta that they play next, if I remember. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Chicago is going to do in the next game. And yeah, next up, so the sad derby ended in a 3-2 game. And usually, I know that I didn't mention this in the sad derby. Usually in a derby where both teams are just absolutely garbage, usually it's gonna end in a boring 0-0 draw, or in this case it's gonna end in like a 3-2 game where there's just absolutely no defense played. And in this game, that was exactly the case. I mean, DC United, holy crap, the defense that they put out in this game and the performance. I bet a second tier team, I bet a USL soccer team can score goals against that DC United defense. It was just so bad. Like some of the goals that they concede from this game was just god awful. And the fact that they concede the same amount of goals that Philly has scored pretty much the entire season just kind of sums up how bad DC United is. And for the Union, obviously they are equally as bad as also in terms of their defensive kind of mistake. And in this game, it's just a case where they just able to score more in this one. And certainly I think that should be a very big news, a very kind of good news for Union fans, seeing that guys like CJ Sapon and Doxel and Isenio, I'm not quite sure if that's how you pronounce it, are scoring goal for your team, because it's been a really rough stretch in terms of scoring goals. Like 3 goals in an entire season, and the fact that you scored the same amount of goal as you have done for the first 6 games this season just kind of sums up how bad it is in this stretch. But they definitely will take this victory. I think that ended their winless streak of 5 games and get their first win since opening weekend. And for DC United, it is back to reality pretty much. I mean, after just a miraculous 1-0 win against the Crew while they were down to 10 men in that game, yeah, it is back to reality for Greg Olsen's team. And for DC United, this is going to be a long season if they not only cannot figure out the defense or the midfield or going forward on the attack, but it's just that if they continue play like this is just going to be a repeat of last year. And I bet the opening of Audi Field in June is, it will kind of help them in a bit, but it won't really save them in terms of having just a really bad season. But overall, as I said before in the preview, I really don't think that this game really helped anybody. I mean, for Philly, yes, you score 3 goals in this game, but it was against a DC United team that just cannot defend to save their life. And for DC United, this is just a horrible loss against a team that you clearly should have beat, and probably maybe the only team you could have had a chance to beat on the road legitimately. So yeah, speaking of depressing and frustration, this game, oh my goodness, I mean, the Crew got a 2-1 win in this game. Goals from Afro and Gorilla, and the only goal for the Quakes is Danny Houston. And I mean, it is just, if you're a Philly and DC United fans and you feeling depressed, then you could maybe take a little bit from what a Quakes fan is feeling right now. And right now, for me, I'm just feeling as depressed as it gets. This team right now, after this game, I almost feel like this season is just over for us, that we are not going to do anything at all. And this is not because we were just absolutely horrible. In fact, I actually thought we played well in this game. The first half, I thought that, Columbus pretty much just dominated majority part of this first half. And then we, of course, nicked a goal right before halftime. And, with this goal that Danny Houston scored, which was a lovely kind of header that he scored, I thought that, this is it. We can potentially come back from this. We score a goal that really kind of changed the game. And in the second half, potentially we are going to go forward and get that winner. And it looked like in the second half, the way we play, it looked like we were going to do that. But this goes back to what I say about in the match preview. And also, for those of you that also don't know already, I did not do a match review on this. And the reason why I did not do it is because I was feeling so depressed after this game and the way the result is. But, in the second half, I thought we played pretty well. We did create some chances in the second half. But once again, like what I said in the preview, we got to take advantage of those chances. And guess what we did in that game? We did not take advantage of those chances in the second half. We literally let a couple of golden opportunities to gone to waste. I think Vako, Eriksson, and Houston had a couple of chances in this game. And even late in the game with Vako right around the 90th minute, I mean, that was a very, very big miss. That could have easily equalized the game for us and made it 2-2 and get a draw out of Columbus. And, this game, I felt like we should at least deserve a draw because I feel like this is probably the best we had played on the road this season. Even better than what we did in that game against Orlando City. But Columbus, of course, scored that late goal in the 84th minute, and just as I thought that we were going to get out of this with something and just get out of this Eastern Conference trip at least with something to salvage, we gave up a late goal just like that. And right now, I just have absolutely no confidence about this team. And this team is just problems from top to bottom right now. The defense is just absolutely garbage. The second goal just kind of sums up how our defense performance is. Like, how in the world did Eriksson not kind of boot that one away when the ball was coming in? Like, he literally just completely missed that ball and let Columbus with a good opportunity in the box to score. And yeah, it is just like something's got to change with this team. And I know there's also a couple of people that have already started to kind of putting the hashtag Starhay out and want the team to sack the manager. I think that's a little bit over the top in some ways because it's only been 8 games, and as depressing I am in terms of how this season has gone, it's still a little bit too early to just completely decided to sack Michael Starhay, because keep in mind, he is a foreign manager and he is still learning the league. And in this game, unfortunately, it did not do his reputation in terms of him potentially going to avoid the sack in these upcoming couple of months in the season any favor, because once again, he made the wrong lineup. Why in the world does he put Youngworth in the left back? I mean, did you see that game against the Dynamo and how Youngworth was so uncomfortable and just getting exposed? And the other thing that I was really kind of just mind-boggling and just kind of scratching my head is, why is Vako playing in the wing area? He is not a winger. He is a central attacking man, and at times you could put him as a striker. So why do you put him on the wing like that? It just, he's putting guys out of position just to see if it will help us. And I know in the left back position we just don't have a reliable left back, which is another reason why we really need to sign one. And heck, I just think that probably we should just sign one right now as the transfer deadline is about to close, because it's just not good enough right now. And I think it's either we sign one or we just bring in one of them from our affiliates. It's just, this team is just not good enough in terms of how they have performed this season. And as for Columbus, this is obviously a very big victory for this team. They had to stop this winless streak that they have been going through, and I don't know if the Crew fans should take a lot into this game and just kind of say that they're back on track, because they're playing a Quakes team that is just, it's been a disaster so far. And there are still problems with this Crew team, and finishing in this game, there was a couple of big chances in this game where they could have easily just blow the Quakes out of the water, but they didn't do it, and they let the Quakes hang into the game. And fortunately, they did score that second goal in the 84th minute, and yeah. But like I said, this game, it so depressed me. That's why I didn't really do a match review on this. I usually never finish a Quakes game without doing a match review, but after this one, I just could not take it. Like, I was just so mentally frustrated and angry about this result that I just couldn't do a match review on this. But yeah, next one. New England with a 1-0 win against Sporting KC. The only goal in this game was Theo Bunbury, and what was very interesting about this goal was that this goal originally was ruled offside, and the New England announcer even said that, oh, he's offside, and he puts it into the back of the net, but he's offside and stuff like that. And they didn't really like go crazy whatsoever. But upon further review and looking at the VAR, and even though Bunbury on the replay did look like he was offside, it looked like Roger Espinoza actually trying to poke that ball away from one of the Revs player that was setting up the attack, and somehow unfortunately he just poked it right into Bunbury. And I get that some Sporting KC fans are very angry about this goal to be stand, and they're not happy that this was actually a goal. But if you look on the replay and if you look at just very closely, it does look like Espinoza accidentally kind of like touched that ball and basically gave it right into Bunbury. Because remember, if a guy that is in an offside position, if a defender basically give the ball into that guy, he is not really offside. I mean, if you're a defender and just made a bad pass and one of the guy that is in an offside position, he can just easily get the ball because that's a live ball. And Sporting KC fans said that it was not clear and obvious. I think it's clear and obvious. I thought if you just look at it even closely, and I know it looked like those two players kind of like hit the ball at the same time, but it looked like Espinoza kind of got to it, and it just goes into Bunbury to get the only goal for the Revs. And with this result, you got to think that New England is really for real now. I mean, this team is just... I think I'm kind of like the only guy that has really kind of giving a lot of props and kind of like just praising this Revs team, because right now the media are not really praising them at all. They have really fly under the radar a lot, and in some way maybe that kind of helped New England in some ways to, they want to just keep it quiet and not let anyone know that they are really just a big threat in the East. But yeah, I mean, New England, this is I think their fourth win in like 5 or something like that. And they are now all the way up into 3rd or 4th place, I think. I think they're in 4th place. I think 3rd place still belongs to Orlando City, who won again. Again, another spoiler to this game. But yeah, you got to think the Revs are potentially for real, because it's now a quarter of the season, and they've been doing it for the last 8 or so weeks. And usually when you see a team that you don't expect to have a very good season, you thought that they were going to be a bottom feeder, usually they fizzle out in the next couple of games. They usually have a good stretch, but usually they don't kind of maintain it. Well, New England is maintaining it right now, and I'm not saying that potentially they are going to kind of fizzle out and stuff like that, but you got to be impressed with what New England has done, especially how the controversy that has gone on in the offseason with the owner and the players are not happy about each other, and the fact that they didn't really sign anybody to fix their issue. But you got guys that you probably never heard of, like Theo Bunbury and Penela, and also Diego Fagundes. Well, actually, Fagundes was more known about, but some guys that you usually don't think can perform and really kind of like deliver to trying to get this team to where they are right now is actually doing it. And for Sporting KC, this was a horrible performance by them, and I think they probably just completely caught by that hangover 6-0 win against Vancouver. I mean, they thought that they were the best team in the league, and they kind of got hung over. And yeah, this is what happens. And you know, I'm not that concerned with Sporting KC in terms of this game. You know, the refs are just absolutely red hot, and they're just so good at home. But for Sporting KC, you could have argued that maybe they should at least get a draw out of this. And it also, this result kind of also explained why the West is just so weak right now. For the second year in a row, the West just look like a cupcake right now. Anybody can win the West, and I think that maybe kind of is the silver lining for me being a Quakes fan right now, because even as bad as things has gone, if we can just put up with some good stretch in the future, then we can go right back up there, because so far the West, there's really no team in the West that you could say that they are absolutely amazing. I mean, for Sporting KC, there was a time where they were like that, but now after what happened in this game, and you know, you can say that whenever another Western Conference team that is near up there, like LAFC for example, play against maybe like an Atlanta and stuff like that, then maybe they can potentially fall. Well, to be fair, Atlanta and LAFC have already played together, and you saw what happened in that game. I mean, LAFC got completely destroyed in that one. So yeah, the West is wide open. The East is once again a very strong conference, and you know, for New England, if they were in the West, they would be literally right near the top and really be in the conversation of getting into the playoffs because of how weak the West is. But because they're in the East, and because we all talk about all these kind of strong teams and forget about New England being all up there, and thinking that eventually they're just going to fizzle out because the East is just that strong. Maybe that's why they're kind of flying under the radar right now, and people are not really giving them enough credit when they should clearly be right now. But yeah, to finish the Saturday game, or actually we still have two more Saturday game, and actually I should talk about this one first because this one actually kicked off a little bit later. But yeah, this one, a lot of Galaxy fan was absolutely pissed off about this game, and the reason why they were pissed off is that they thought that they got completely robbed in this game, and in some way they kind of did, because remember how I said that we have seen the good of VAR? Well, in this game we have saw the absolute worst of VAR. I mean, there was just the most obvious bad decision of VAR was this penalty kick, which I put a question mark, because yeah, it was a penalty that probably should have not been a penalty at all. So basically what happened was, I believe it was Romney that handballed it in the box, and he basically kind of like slid down to try to block the ball. And we have seen this happen a couple of times this season, when a player trying to slide down, trying to block the ball from coming into the box, and it accidentally hit in the hand. And we also have seen a couple of times where it has been called a penalty, and how it was a bad kind of penalty. And it's also add to the complication of what is actually a penalty with what is not an actual penalty, what is actually a handball really in the box. Like, sometimes it looks obvious, sometimes it isn't, and in that case, it's another big question, because it looked like when the ball comes in, it looked like it hit his hand, but his hand was not really in a unnatural position. It looked like when he tried to slide down, his hand's got to do that. I mean, I don't know how you can, unless you probably just kind of like put your hands up when you slide down and trying to avoid the handball from then. I think that is the only time where you can avoid getting being called from a handball when the ball was delivered in the box and you're basically sliding down. And even in that situation, if the ball hits high above your head and you raise your arm like that and hit your hand, that's a handball too. And I think that's even more obvious because when you raise your hand and when you try to slide down like this, it's pretty obvious that your hand is in an unnatural position. So I really felt for the Galaxy for that being a call that should have never been a penalty, and that they got kind of robbed in this game. But at the same time, when you concede 2 goals in that game, and even without this goal, it would have been a 2-2 draw. And the equalizer they got in the 11th minute, I thought that was a good call. I believe it was either Dos Santos or Kamara that was leading up to the play that was offside. I mean, the angle or the replay that they shown was not the incident that happened. The replay they shown was, I believe it was Kamara that was already in the 18-yard box, and basically he was trying to slots it home like that, and that is not the replay. That is not the incident that has happened. And when they show the correct incident, that is the reason why it was offside. That was what they were looking for, because the previous incident, the previous incorrect kind of replay that they shown was not what they were checking on. So that one they did get it right, but there was just a lot of calls that was against the Galaxy in this game. And some will say that they got robbed in this game, but other, including myself, will say that they should not have conceded 2 goals in this game, and now they have lost 3 in a row at home. This sounds very similar, isn't it, Galaxy fan? Didn't I hear this story last year too, where you just struggle at home? Yeah, I mean, they got to figure out their home record. StubHub Center has really turned into what it used to be, an absolute fortress, to a stadium that anybody can just walk up and get a victory. Because it just, right now, the Galaxy just have some real issue right now with their team. And I think their biggest issue has to be on the defensive end. Because at times, in the defensive end, they did not look good at all. They did not set up very well in the defensive end. But talking about this one, and actually we're already almost into the 40th minute mark, and we still have 3 more games to talk about. But talk about this game between Minnesota and Houston, where Minnesota won 2-1 against Houston. Goes from Quintero with the penalty conversion, and Ipson. The only goal for Houston is Elise. And I'll tell you what, I'm starting seeing a little bit of pattern in terms of what Minnesota has been this season. And I'm not sure if this is a very kind of good example of a pattern, but it just felt like this season, whenever a guy went down with a long-term injury, which in this case, Ethan Finley got a torn ACL in this season. He is now become one of the many victims of just that really bad injury crisis that Minnesota has had. It seemed like that has really kind of rallies the team. It's almost like a rally cry that the team is really want to play for one of the guys that potentially is going to suffer a season-ending injury. And because of that, the team is more reunite and have more energy, and they got a win against Houston. And this was the same case that happened when Molina went down and they got 2 straight wins. Now, I'm not saying that should be something that they should do all season long, and I really hope that won't be the case, but it seemed like that is the case of Minnesota right now, is that whenever a guy went down, they just look more energetic and have more purposes. And I just really wish that is kind of the energy that they show every game, because if that's the energy they show every game, then I think Minnesota could potentially be playoff team. And as for Houston, this is bad. This is really, really bad, considering the fact that you just come off of a 5-1 victory, and just as you thought that you finally turn a corner after that really brutal kind of stretch where you just cannot get a win, you come into Minnesota, a team that have lost 4 in a row, and just have pretty much every star that they have available besides their new signing Quintero and also Christian Ramirez available being out, and you still cannot get a victory out of this. I mean, I know Houston is bad on the road, but when you're playing against Minnesota that is just in such a bad stretch and you still can't get a win, yeah, it is troubled time for the Dynamo right now, and I just have a feeling that they are not going to make the playoffs this season if they just continue the way they are going. But the last 2 games, Colorado and Orlando City. Colorado with a 2-1, or not Colorado, Orlando City with a 2-1 win over the Rapids. Goals for the Rapids, the only goal that they scored was Domenico Bocci. And for Orlando City, Higuita and Yotun with the goal for them. And for Colorado, they have nobody to blame but themselves for not being more clinical in this game, because I really think Colorado was the better team in this game. First half, it was pretty clear that they were the better team. They were absolutely dominating that game against Orlando City, and they were rewarded with a Domenico Bocci goal. But they also had a couple of chances to make it 2-0 and potentially put this game completely away. And in the second half, they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. I mean, they still had a couple of very decent chances, but unfortunately, they gave up some big chances for Orlando City. And in the story, really, in this game is just Orlando City being more clinical. I mean, it's just that simple. Colorado has I think Colorado certainly outshot Orlando City in this game, but unfortunately, the Rapids were not clinical enough. And at the end of the day, you can say that you were the better team out of this game and you really took it to Orlando City. But if you don't finish your chances, and if that kind of good performance does not reflect on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter at all. Like a couple of weeks from now, nobody is going to remember that Colorado outplayed Orlando City and that they should have at least deserved a 2-1 victory. It was because Orlando City were more clinical. And for Orlando City, like what I said about the Atlanta game earlier, they are on a collision course with Atlanta being a team that is gonna put up the longest winning streak in the league against a team that also have one of the longest winning streak and just kind of battle out. And Orlando City is just, they are firing on all cylinder right now. It's amazing how this team just completely turned it around like that. It looked kind of like doom and gloom early on, but 5 in a row, and I think that means that Jason Christ's job is pretty secure unless he decided to just completely collapse in the playoffs. And actually, I think that is probably the thing. I think Jason Christ, despite the fact that he's very happy with the way the team has performed, you also remember that in the playoffs, you also have to deliver that same kind of thing. And if Orlando City right now, even with the good run that they on, if they cool off, like let's say near the end of the season, yeah, that could be troubling time for them if they do make the playoff, and most likely are going to make the playoff, because if you go into the playoff completely cool off, you are going to get knocked out in the first round. So let's just hope that Orlando City doesn't peak way too early, although you can't really say that because right now they just want to get themselves back into the top 3 where they kind of belong, and really was the purpose of this year. But yeah, finish off in the final game of this, and I'm going to try to make it quick because this video is already about 45 minutes long. NYCFC with a 3-1 win over FC Dallas, which means that there is no more unbeaten team left in MLS, as FC Dallas were the last unbeaten team, and I kind of had a feeling that they were going to lose this one against NYCFC. Goals from NYCFC, Jesus Medina, Villa with the brace. The headline of this game was Villa scoring his 400 and 400 first goal in this game, and he become one of the 5 active player in the world with 400 plus goal. A couple of those guys that are in that list include Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Yeah, not a bad kind of company to join in the 400 club. That is David Villa, but yeah, and also the only goal for Dallas is Mosquera. And you know, this game again, I think FC Dallas, I don't think FC Dallas should be very disappointed in this game, even with the loss. I thought that in this game where this really kind of like, I said before how this really tests whether or not if FC Dallas, their unbeaten streak was just because they play a lot of easy team and that they had a lot of home game. And I think even in this loss, if you watch this game closely, it looked like this team was pretty good. I mean, NYCFC at time looked really, really kind of bad in this game, but it's also because of the way FC Dallas defend and the way that they kind of shut down a couple of these players. But having said that, the problem for FC Dallas in this game is scoring, and I think it's been kind of a problem for Dallas in the last couple of games. I mean, we always talk about how Dallas has this very good defense, and I think coming into this game, they haven't conceded a goal in like 200 plus minutes. But you also got to remember, guys, that they rely on scoring goals. Guys like Mauro Diaz and Maxi Urruti are really not firing all cylinder, and even guys like Roland Lamar and Mosquera finally getting a goal in those game. Those guys are supposed to be the heart and soul of that attack for FC Dallas, and they're just not really clicking on full cylinder right now. And the reason why they've been kind of been a team that a lot of people kind of praise and say that they are still unbeaten is because of the defense. So yeah, that is pretty much it for all the game this week. I'll probably do the power rankings after this game. It's probably going to be a very kind of late night kind of power rankings. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week with another Match Week review.